Marco Silva to be West Ham's next manager. On the face of it, sounds like a preposterous idea, a ridiculous idea, right? I'm not so sure. Once you scratch below the surface, I think there's some merit in it. Let me just give you a little disclaimer. I hate doing it, but you just got to these days. He would not be at the top of my list. He really, really wouldn't. Somebody said in the Hammers Chat Patrons WhatsApp group earlier on today, they said, is he any better than David Moyes? Is this an upgrade? And I think I like the suggestion of that. I like the idea that West Ham would look to upgrade. It would mean that West Ham are looking forward. It means we're looking to build. We're looking to become a bigger club. And I do think that, bearing in mind we've got a top 13, 14 richest club in the world, or whatever we might be, something along those lines, we should be able to go and get everybody but the elite 5 or 6 managers. I really do believe that. I think we are only limited by our own lack of ambition. For me, I'd go and get Ruben Amorim from Sporting Lisbon, which ironically, I think that was Silva's second club. I think he is the best young up-and-coming manager out there, possibly after Xabi Alonso, but you're not getting Xabi Alonso, so, forget that. That ship has sailed. If we needed to do that, it needed to be done probably last season when Tim Steidten came in. But hey, look, that ship sailed. So I would go and try and be as ambitious as I possibly could be. The trouble with someone like Amorim is he's got a buyout clause. And I think the buyout clause is something like 13 million euros. Now, actually, it's only really when you look at it and think, well, hold on a second, why should we pay a transfer fee for a manager? It seems a little bit ridiculous until you sort of realise that other clubs do it, and West Ham don't, do they? I think one of the reasons that we're after Fonseca, who's actually not doing bad. I think Lille are up in 4th at the moment, is because he's available at the end of the season. I think one of the reasons that we were interested in Christophe Galtier, I may have that name wrong, is that he will be available. It's always been West Ham, hasn't it? Who's available? Who's cheap? And it's crazy. It's a funny old thing to do, really, isn't it? That you'd go and spend £40 million on a striker, £35 million on a striker, £50 million on a midfielder. Yet you won't pay a little bit of money. You won't pay, sort of 20% of that for a top manager. But anyway, there we go. So I would go and get Amorim. That's my choice. And then there are 5 or 6 under that, which I've discussed on numerous other videos. However, out of the managers we've been linked with, I don't mind Silva. I think he's okay. I really do. I've been quite impressed with the job that he's done at Fulham. Actually, I've got to say, I was initially impressed with him at Hull. Somewhere in the archives of Hammers Chat, there's a video of me talking to Gio. Good luck finding it. And I say at the time, I like him. I think he's a good manager. And I think there was a lot to like about him. He was a little bit too attacking. Put it this way. I think when he rocked up at Everton, their first game, they did a pre-season friendly and they won it something like 25-0, 20-0, something like that. One big. I think when he got to Fulham, he sort of changed his style a little bit, became a little bit more pragmatic. And sometimes I think you've got to think a little bit outside the box if you're going to bring a manager in. And one of the reasons I like the fact that Silva's been linked with West Ham is it's a move away from what they would used to do. So for a long time, you always felt that our owners would want to try and bring Steve Bruce in. Was always waiting for Tony Pulis to rock up at West Ham. Certainly the case with Sam Allardyce, very much that case. And there was a sort of standard fit, wasn't there? And, of course, David Moyes would be one of those, as well as he's done. And if they were going to go for an overseas manager, it wouldn't be someone that required any scouting, or it would be someone that knew the Premier League, was known to West Ham, might be Slaven Bilic. But the big one is, of course, Rafa Benitez. Basically, I'm suggesting we always go for journeyman or yesterday's men. And maybe you could argue that Marco Silva is a journeyman. But do you know what? I would like to see what he could do with West Ham, because he's been dealt a bit of a poor hand at Fulham. The Fulham owner, I think his name's Khan, American owner, came in, bought Fulham with the idea of using Fulham as a vehicle with which to purchase Wembley. It didn't work. And now So when he came in, it was all guns blazing. I'm going to do this, that, and the other. Once he didn't get his way and once he didn't get his stadium, the idea was that he would get hold of Wembley. Basically, he'd go in by stealth. He'd go in disguise as Fulham, get Wembley, bring an NFL team over. Lots of things happened. Anyway, that never happened. Because of that, he's not really pumping money into Fulham anymore. And of course, they did really, really well last season. But they lost Mitrovic, if you remember. They were quite close to losing Silva as well. Quite close to losing Polina. But anyway, I just think he did a really, really good job. This season, even though they've been decimated, even though they've got a squad that's even older than West Ham's, I think he does really well. I think he gets a tune out of old players that to be past their best. I think he gets a tune out of players who maybe have been overpriced, overinflated reputation. Iwobi springs to mind. I don't think he's a bad manager at all. I'd be quite interested to see what he could do with West Ham. I'll make the case again. He would not be my chosen manager. But given the choice between him and Gaultier, I'd choose Silva. Fonseca, I don't think there's a lot in it. And I think he's proven himself doing quite well this season, Fonseca, actually. To have them up into fourth. I'm not sure how many Champions League positions they get in France. Do they get 4? I don't know. But he's doing pretty well then. I'm not impressed with Thomas Tuchel, I've got to say. I know they won again the other night, and they've obviously got through in Europe. But everywhere Tuchel goes, he seems to fall out with someone. And I know he would fall out with David Sullivan. I mean, that much is clear. And whilst there's a lot of people saying, well, that would be an interesting thing to do, that would be quite interesting to see him fall out with David Sullivan. Whilst it might be quite interesting, it might be fun for a little while, it would be to the detriment of the football club. And he's just one of those players, he can have an argument on his own in a telephone box. As young people watching this thing, what's a telephone box? I actually had to explain to my daughter the other day what that thing was outside of Greg's. There's no telephone in it, and I was just trying to explain the concept to her. And she did not get the concept of a public phone. Anyway, it's just too. I just think it'd be a match made in hell. I really do. So I quite like Silva. I don't think it's the worst suggestion in the world, and I just think it suggests that we're thinking outside of the box. That's slightly different. It's not the standard old Benitez, Steve Bruce, Sam Allardyce. And I know he is known to the Premier League, but I do think we would enjoy the football an awful lot more than we got it now. And I do think they've whooped us 5-0 this year, haven't they? They look all right. They look all right. Considering the budget he's got, they are not doing too bad. So I'm not saying no. I'm not saying yes, and he's not my first choice. And look, the situation is with David Moyes, it's a fluid one, right? I cannot work out whether he's staying or going. I mean, I change my mind, not just with every result that happens, but everything he says. So he's just done the press conference ahead of the Freiburg game, and David Moyes is saying, I'm going to qualify for Europe again next season. And he's speaking it in terms of like he's going to be here. And I don't mean to be disrespectful. Look, I don't want him here next season. All right, I don't. I'll do other videos about it, about all the players that need replacing for next season. I think we might need to bring in 7 players. I just don't want to see another David Moyes rebuild. Truth be known, but for the remainder of the season, because I do think he's going to be here, I'm behind him. I'm a David Moyes fan. I'm a David Moyes for president. Wrong country. David Moyes for prime minister. Actually, no, probably president. Actually, because I don't want David Moyes as the prime minister. Can you imagine David Moyes being in charge of schools? He'd probably make everybody stay in school until they were 25. He's suspicious of the youngsters, is Moyesy. I'm joking, of course. A little bit. What I'm saying is, I'm behind him for the season. I mean, a couple of people always say, that's it, get behind a manager, get behind a manager. Look, when I'm at the stadium next week, I'll be behind the manager. Don't worry about it. I'll be singing Bubbles as loud as anyone. I'll be behind the team. I'll be behind the manager. If we win well and he gets his tactics right, just like I did the other day on a video, I'll say, well done, David Moyes, got your tactics right there. Absolutely. I've not got an agenda to belittle David Moyes, but I just, for this season, I am behind him. I really am. But for next season, and it's not me, by the way, it's not me creating the uncertainty. It's the board not giving him a new deal, and it's David Moyes saying, I'm not going to sign a new deal until the end of the season. Oh, the uncertainty is being created by external forces, not being created in this cave, that's for sure. Speaking of which, I'm going swimming. Don't worry, I'm going swimming today. Well, it's not today. It's yesterday as far as you're concerned. I'm recording this quite late at night. But, yeah, I'm swimming again. The old leopard print Speedo's ready. The goggles are ready. Been waxed, haven't really. None of that stuff. Well, the swimming bit is true. Aside from that, nothing else. I don't even have a set of goggles. They were my daughter's goggles I was wearing the other day. Not to swim. I had them around my neck. Anyway, I digress. You do us a massive favour, by the way. We've got a week's free trial over on Patron at the moment. Patron's our third Hammers Chat channel. You probably heard me say it a million times. Without Patron, we couldn't do what we do now, which is upload daily. We got some really, really, really good prizes on Patreon this week. You got to get in on you do your score predictions. Here's the great thing, right? You do your score predictions, you do your goal scorer. Log on to Patreon. I think that if you are an addict, I think it's like an assigned Areola shirt for this week. Believe it or not, even if you're just a trial member, you can get a prize as well if you get a prediction right. Go and check it out. It's a 7-day free trial. Patreon.com/hammerschat. Go and have a look now. Don't just do that for that, though. There's loads of additional content over there. We got Hammerlytics. Love Hammerlytics. Pretty damn good. We've got a breakfast show. We've got the Player Ratings show. We've got Anton Ferdinand podcast. Just an interview with Dean Ashton. What a great guy he was, by the way. Did that in a week. We got our naked podcast where we remain clothed. But we talk about things aside from West Ham, actually, on that. We have a lot of fun doing that. We anything goes on that one, where our naughty patrons ask a lot of, naughty and very, very funny questions, it has to be said. So anyway, the link's in the description below for that. We'd really appreciate you, giving it a go, give it a whirl for the 7-day free trial. Even better if you sign up, we'd very much appreciate that as well. It's a great way for you to support Hammers Chat and in return get discounts to the store, entered into competitions. Lots of extra content, all that sort of thing. Anyway, big game tonight, right? Big, big game tonight. So we will catch up with you an hour and 5 minutes before kickoff. I only say it there because I think I know what time it is, but I don't want to be unsure. Check it out for yourself. Look at the internet. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll post the kickoff time in the description below, just in case you're wondering. Stay safe, everybody that's driven over to Germany. There's been a bit of travel chaos, and I've just had a little click on social media and had a look. There's a lot of people posting pictures, driving over there and all the rest of it. So, stay safe, be careful, get home safe, and bring 3 points back with you, and I'll catch up with you later.